Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about like influence, right? So influencing people is basically our ability to like in a non-sinister way get them to do what we want, right? So like I'm not saying have bad intentions or anything like that, right? But it's important that you know how to influence people, especially as a leader and especially as this business, because we're trying to guide people. We're trying to help people. And to do that, sometimes you need to get them to do what you want, right? But you can't just tell people what to do at the same time, okay? So I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, you can't really tell people just what to do, okay? You need to make them think it's their idea and by showing them the benefits of doing what you think they should do, okay? Um, but basically, your ability to influence is it's based on a few things, and again, I'll get into that a bit later. But basically, I'm going to talk about like how we start with influence, right? Because people don't understand. We have been influencing people since day one of being born, right? So when we're a baby, when we're hungry, or when we need a nappy change, what do? We cry. We cry loudly and we cry for as long as we need to until we get that like nappy change or the food, right? Um, and then as we get a little bit older, we get a little bit more developed, we get a little bit smarter. We learn that persistence, because we can talk now, so we learn that persistence is now our most effective tool, right? So you see a toy at the shops, and you ask your mom, and she's like no, and then you just keep on saying it over and over and over and over again, and at the end, she probably says yes just to shut you up, right? Because you're annoying, but she can't really do anything about it other than like get you the toy. Um, and then as we get a little bit older again, we're at the prom, right? Or the formal for Australians, and you want to ask the girl to like the formal, right? So you need to influence her to say yes, right? So that's a bit more advanced again. And then you go to college or university or whatever, and if you failed an exam by like a tiny bit, you need to be able to influence the professor to find that extra mark, basically, right? Um, and then as you get older, as you're out of college, you need to be able to influence your employer to hire you. Okay, and then once you've got a stable job, stable income and stuff, and you've got a girlfriend, you need to be able to influence her to marry you. Right. So everything we do kind of comes back. Everything we do with other people and everything we get from other people, kind of comes back to our ability to influence them. Right. But it's something that a lot of people don't actually think about, right? They either kind of have it and they haven't thought about it, or they don't have it and they don't think about it. There's some people, but there's few people that think about it and have it, right? But those are the people that have it the fastest and have it the most effective, basically, because they're consciously thinking about it, right? So it's definitely a very important like leadership trait to be able to influence someone, right? Because in the end, it is a leader follower like dynamic that you're trying to get between you and your downline. So you kind of need that ability to influence so that you can guide and teach them, right? And help them basically, okay? So I'm actually going to be talking from the perspective of the follower, right? Because it's the follower that decides whether or not they follow the leader, right? There's two types of power, right? So there's hard power, and that's like a dictator, right? That's like that's like your employer who's just like, you need to get this done or I'm gonna fire you, right? So there's a level of coercion, right? So if you don't do something bad is going to happen, right? That's hard power. You're in fear basically, right? And then soft power is you need to build it basically, right? Most people don't have it. It's charisma, it's having good character, and it's having skills, right? Uh, and it creates like this magnetic attraction where people want to follow you. They're not being told what to do anymore. You're telling them what to do because they want you to tell them what to do, right? It's like a magnetic attraction basically, right? So most of us aren't going to like inherit hard power or become a dictator, right? So we kind of need to become the type of person that wants to follow then, right? If we want to have that level of influence, we need to become that person, okay? Um And yeah, basically it comes down to character and skills, right? So if you have low skills and high character, like people aren't really gonna like know what to do in your business. They're gonna want to follow you, but they're not gonna know what they're following you into, and you're not gonna have any results. So it's doomed to fail, right? But if you have low character and high skills, then you're probably a politician, to be honest. But basically, people are going to have trust in you at the start because you know your stuff, right? But then they're going to realize that you don't have integrity, you're not trustworthy, you're not doing the things you're telling other people to do. They're not going to want to follow you after they realize those things, right? So you need to have high character and you need to have high skills, right? So probably the most important skill to have is integrity, right? Because if people can't trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, well, then they can't really trust you, right? Like you could just be lying every time you talk to them. And it's not just about how you treat like your own team, right? So if I lie to someone in front of like my downline, right? Then my downline knows that I lie to people, right? So if I'm talking about the business to my downline and I give him a bit of advice which he's a bit like iffy on, and he's not quite sure of, he might be like, well, he hasn't lied to me, but I know he lies, so should I believe him when he's telling me this? So it's important that you're absolute in your integrity, basically, right? You don't want to have like two faces, basically, right? You want to be consistent no matter who you talk to and no matter who you're dealing with. You want to be the same person, basically, right? And then you've got the like attitude, right? Attitude and in particular optimism, okay? So everyone is a realist, right? So being a realist just means you have a grasp on reality, like where we are now, right? But then pessimism is that you think it's going to go downhill from there, right? From your reality, right? But optimism is that you think it's going to go uphill from there, right? But when you get to like that point in the future, you still have that realism about where you actually are, okay? So there's no real benefit of pessimism, right? And it's almost like a placebo effect. So the placebo effect is like a really very real thing. And having optimism about the future drastically improves like the prospects of the future, right? And it improves your results of the future. Because if you're going out with hope and you're moving with belief, then you're moving with action, right? But if you don't think you're going anywhere, and if your leader doesn't think you're going anywhere, well, you're probably an idiot for following your leader if your leader doesn't think they're going anywhere, first of all, right? So you can understand why optimism is such an important like trait of leadership, right? Because no one's going to want to follow a leader who's negative. They're only going to want to follow a leader who's going somewhere, right? And then, yeah, so leaders are dealers of hope, right? So they need to be able to instill a certain level of belief in their followers, okay? And if they can't, then they're not going to be a leader for long, right? Because as a leader, you can't really pick and choose who you believe in. You got to believe in everyone so that you're giving everyone like an equal opportunity and an equal chance to succeed, okay? But you can't really take it personally if anyone fails either, right? So you've got to give everyone the same opportunity, everyone the same belief level, right? But you work with the workers and you don't take it personally when people fail or when people don't make it, right? Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about something that's like, people might think it's a little bit irrelevant, but it definitely has influence, right? So it's fitness, right? So we're told when we're growing up, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But it's a survival thing that we do judge a book by its cover, right? Because we need to know whether it's going to be a waste of time, or in the jungle or whatever, we need to know if something's a threat, right? So we make an assessment based on face value, right? And that's judging a book by its cover, right? So when a follower is deciding whether or not you're worth like following, they're looking at your fitness. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, it doesn't matter, but they are looking at your fitness. Because if you can't take care of yourself, why would they expect you to take care of them, right? Like, so you can understand why your fitness is very important for basically getting them in the door, right? So by judging, if you see a book with an attractive cover, something that's appealing to you, you pick it up and you read it, right? And if it's interesting, you read more, right? And we all have something to offer of value, okay? So we just need to make that cover as attractive as we can so that people pick the book up and read it and get the information out of us that's so valuable, right? And hopefully become a part of our team, okay? So yeah, just some last thoughts is basically focusing on the work, no matter what you're doing, whether it's the business, whether it's walking to school, it makes it unsustainable, okay? Because you're just focusing. No one enjoys like you can learn to enjoy the work, but basically at the start, no one enjoys the work, okay? They don't enjoy the work for the work. They enjoy the work for where it gets them. So focusing on the work is like focusing on the negative, right? You got to focus on the positive. And the positive is where you're going from the work, right? It's the destination, and the work is the vehicle that gets you there, right? So yeah, the last thing I'll say is focusing on the work makes it unsustainable. Focusing on the dream makes it easier than anything you've ever done, okay? All right, that's everything. Thanks, guys.